Hey, welcome back to another episode of TNTT Truth Not Trash with Tim. And we're going to get right into it. So, kind of a lot of things going on. We're almost done with the Constitution series, which is probably a good thing. It's important that we know this stuff moving forward. That's the reason I'm doing it. Uh, I know sometimes it's a little dry, sometimes it's a little boring, but it's important stuff, and it's important for you and I and everybody we know to understand how the Constitution works, why it was put in place, and the protections that it provides. Once again, you can't forget, you always have to remember that the Constitution is there to limit the government, not to limit the people. All right, and it's a requirement of the people to enforce the Constitution, to ensure that the government stays in line with the Constitution. And speaking of that, I'm going to get off topic just a little bit right up front, try and get it out of my system like I always do. But man, can you believe this? Um, Basement dwelling Hayden Biden all of a sudden has showed up, hasn't he? I don't know if he even understands or has even read half of the executive orders he signed. I mean, there's some disastrous garbage that he's already put in place, all through executive order. Wasn't it just months ago, not years ago, but months ago, where he chastised President Trump for every executive order he ever made? How a president cannot rule through dictatorship and executive order. It has to be legislated. And then all of a sudden he comes in and uh, and he kills tens of thousands of jobs on his first day. Uh, he destroys entire sectors of business in his first few days. He tries to totally eliminate any type of border protections in his first few days. Luckily, that was struck down very quick, and now he's starting to backpedal. He put us back in this disastrous Paris Climate Accord, where we're the only ones spending any money, where we're paying countries like China. Yes, we're paying China to be more environmentally friendly. Come on, man. In the famous words of Joe Biden, come on, man. Dude, wake up, get a grip. And then just recently, I think just yesterday, he signs an executive order making it easier to kill babies around the world. Just ridiculous. And you're paying for it with public funds. Kill babies with public funds. That's what Joe Biden signed. And I know I'm probably going to get censored for saying that, but it's the proof is in the pudding. He signed the bill. He signed the executive order, not me. He signed it. So let's think about it. Joe Biden is the killer of our country. He's killed tens of thousands of jobs. He's killed industries. He's killed border protections, and now he wants to go out and kill babies around the world. Man, this is a hard pill to swallow. Joe, pace yourself, buddy. You got 4 years to totally destroy the country. You don't have to do it all in your first 4 weeks or 2 weeks for that matter. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. It's out of control, and they're out of touch. And a real quick side note. So absent Rick Larson posted something about how proud he is to do something with Joe Biden. And I made a comment on there, not mean, just saying, look, you're absent. You don't have any idea what you're talking about. You guys are killing jobs. You're killing industries. You're not opening up the economy. You're the aviation subcommittee chair, and yet your district is the one losing the most aviation jobs, right? Your district, absent Rick, is the one losing all the aviation jobs. Figure the odds. How does that work? So I said something on there, and boy, was I belittled and berated. I was stupid, ignorant, xenophobic, racist, bigoted. I mean, every word that the left can come up with to try to degrade you or belittle you, I was called. and so I just posted back. I said, well, you're proving my point. You're proving my point because you think you're so smart that us, and thank you for allowing us little people to exist in your world, leftists. So man, we've got a huge mountain to climb, and we can do it. We can move mountains. Okay, so we're 4.5 minutes into it. Opinions out of the way. What I want to cover today is once again amendments to the Constitution. I think we'll have 2 episodes left, and then we'll be done. We'll get through as many as we can right now. We're going to cover 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, and maybe the 21st. Yeah, probably the 21st if we get that far. And then we'll do the last couple in a day or so. So let's shoot right into this. Give me a second. Let me open up the other window that I want to use. So there's this guy. And yeah, maybe it's about time that I buy a new computer. Oh, look how slow that is. There we go. All right, 16th Amendment. Some of these are going to be quick and easy. 16th Amendment. In Congress, or the Congress, shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. Okay, so all this did was it put in place an income tax. Guys, before this, the United States didn't have an income tax. The government survived on taxes of the sale of property, tariffs of imports and exports, things of that nature, and they seem to have been doing pretty well at that. But the powers to be figured they needed a better way, or what they thought was a better way, so they put in an income tax. Kind of a side note on income tax. It used to be where you would have to go pay your taxes. You'd have to show up at a place, or somebody would come to you, or you'd send a check. I mean, I wasn't alive when this was happening, but you would have to pay your taxes yourself. It didn't come out of your check automatically like it does now. And sometime at the beginning or during World War II, the powers to be decided that if they just take it out of your paycheck and you don't even notice it, it'll make it easier to collect. They'll know that they're getting the money right up front. And also, it'll make it harder for the people to resist bad taxes and bad policy. There's nothing you can do about it. You cannot not pay payroll taxes. It doesn't happen. So if you don't agree with what's going on and you're trying to passively resist, screw you. You got nothing. You got no recourse whatsoever. So income tax on your check. So now what they can do is they can continually increase it little bits by little bits by little bits, and you don't even notice it. You don't even notice it. It's like eating an elephant, right? One bite at a time. Elephant doesn't even know he's being eaten until he's half gone. I mean, it's pretty bad. I mean, think about it. We work for 3 to 5 months just to pay federal income taxes, those of us who actually pay them, right? It's a crazy system. Okay, 17th Amendment. So that was the income tax amendment, 16th. 17th Amendment. This fixed a few things with the Senate. So I want to watch a video about this one. This is pretty cool. I'll read it, and then we will watch a video. So 17th Amendment. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state. We knew that. Elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. When vacancies happen in the representation of any state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies, provided that the legislature of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election as the legislature may direct. So yeah, this does say a few things that need to be talked about. Basically, it's changing the way we put senators in office. Oh, sorry. This amendment shall not be so construed as to affect the election or term of any senator chosen before it becomes valid as part of the Constitution. Okay, so let's touch on this real quick. So it amends how senators are elected. So prior to this, the legislatures chose the senators. I mean, we chose the legislatures, and so in a roundabout way, we chose the senators. But prior to this amendment, the legislatures chose the senators, and that turned into some problems. In the mid 1800s, they had an instance of it was a deadlock, and so there was a Senate seat that remained vacant for 2 years. So there was issues with it. And besides, you think about this, I'd rather vote for my senator myself than depend on my congressman, my legislator, to vote on my behalf. Actually, I'm starting to feel that way about a lot of things. I know we're a republic, and that's the way we were put together. But man, I'm struggling with it. Look at those idiots from Washington State, the Republican Congress people that voted to impeach Trump. Unreal. And that wasn't the will of the people in their districts. That's the funny part about it. So anyway, it changes, the 17th Amendment changes what how we get senators. All right, so here you go. Check it out. This is pretty cool.
Congress is made up of two components, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Though members of the House of Representatives have always been elected via popular vote, the same cannot be said about the Senate. As of now, senators are elected via direct popular vote in each state. However, senators were originally appointed by state legislatures. People in favor of the old system claimed it gave diverse types of interest in Congress by having the states being able to keep the federal government in check. People against the system said that it was an undemocratic and an elitist system. Problems occurred in the system whenever a state legislature voted on a senator and it ended in a stalemate. An example of this was in 1895 when the Delaware legislature's vote on a senator ended in a deadlock, causing the Senate seat to be vacant for 2 years. Eventually, states started to reform their system of choosing senators by letting the people vote for who they wanted to be their state's senator and having the state legislature purposely voting in favor of the people. Oregon was the first to enact such reforms, and more states followed by introducing their own reforms. By 1912, over half the states elected their senators through a general election or a party primary. Eventually, Senator from Kansas, Joseph Bristow, introduced a Senate resolution to amend the Constitution. Soon after that, other senators supported the election reforms offered. On May 13, 1912, Congress officially proposed the amendment, and on April 8, 1913, the 17th Amendment was ratified. This means the senators are now elected via popular vote. The only time senators are appointed is when the state requires that the governor pick someone to fill the vacancy until the next Senate election. Election minute out.
Yeah, so just a brief little explanation of how that works. So once again, it just changed the way that we put senators in office. That's all that really did. So that's the 17th Amendment. 18th Amendment. Oh, that's an interesting one. Let me get back to the picture of the Constitution real quick. And here we go. 18th Amendment. So the 18th Amendment is the Prohibition Amendment. That didn't work out so well, did it? It's probably a good thing that we don't make it easy to change the Constitution, because it would be full of stupid things if we were able to just change our Constitution as we changed politicians. We don't really need to get into the 18th Amendment. It's been rescinded, but it basically says that you can't manufacture, sell, transport, do anything with liquor. And you remember, you can watch the movies from back in the day and see how that panned out. So the 18th Amendment, not going to spend a bunch of time on it. All right, 19th Amendment, trying to get back to my notes. Women's right to vote. Wow, how huge is that, right? Over 50% of the population is female, and for all those years they didn't have the right to vote. Just ridiculous, just ridiculous. And you know what? I don't assume to understand the founding fathers' thoughts on that. Actually, not that I don't understand the founding fathers' thoughts, but when they were putting the country together, it was normal that women didn't vote. It wasn't an abstract thought. There was nothing strange about it. It was just an accepted thing. And for us to judge the founding fathers based on current morality and current beliefs, that's doing a huge disservice to what they did for us. See, they put us on the path to this. They put us on the path to this success, to getting women to vote, to ending slavery, to having a free market society, being the strongest nation in the world, to being the freest, least racist nation in the entire world. So they put us on this path to go there. And so for us to judge them based on our current beliefs and moral standards, it's called presentism. And it's a bad thing. Look it up. Look it up. So anyway, that's what it is. Women's right to vote. Sweet. I'm so happy that happened because my wife has a much more level head than I do. And so she can help us make some decisions. Okay, 20th Amendment. This covers a few things. I got my little note here says multiple fixes. Oh, you know what? Let's read the 19th Amendment. The right of a citizen of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Anybody can vote now, as long as you're eligible, as long as you're not a felon and you're a citizen, and you haven't lost your right to vote for some criminal behavior. So that is all right. 20th Amendment, Section 1. Let's just get into the 20th Amendment real quick. Section 1 talks about federal elected transition dates. The terms of the president and the vice president shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of senators and representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January. My birthday, by the way, 3rd day of January. Something exciting to look forward to every election cycle. Of the years in which such terms would have ended in this article had not been ratified, and the terms of their successors shall not begin. So basically, it's just saying when the previous term expires and the new term starts. Pretty important stuff. It had been a little loose prior to that. Section 2, the Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall begin at noon on the 3rd day of January, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Once again, it had been a little loose up to this point. They're putting it in the Constitution that the Congress has to freaking meet. And boy, I'll get on a side note real quick. One of the things that got me more interested in running for Congress and learning more about Congress in the last few years was I went to some sessions of Congress back in 2015. And I was so disgusted with the process. I sat there in the chairs up above and watched and listened, and there'd be one congressman or one senator on the floor arguing a bill or arguing a point to nobody, debating with nobody. And they'd have a bunch of people, young folks, interns up around the podium, and they'd have a stenographer sitting there making notes, and they would grab those notes and run them to the other little senators and congressmen who just didn't have the time to pay attention to the debate at that point in time. Just did not have time to do their job, right? And so it was disgusting. And this was for 2 days. I watched this for a couple days. It was terrible. It was terrible. It was one of the most eye-opening things I've seen with our government and the lack of actual governing that happens. It's all about control now. And it's all about pushing it down the road, not making any major changes in your term that might cost you your seat. Just push it to the next term. Just craziness. All right, sorry, off on a tangent. So minimum congressional schedules, that's what that is, the Section 2 of the 20th Amendment. Section 3. If, at the time fixed for the beginning of the term of the president-elect shall have died, the vice president-elect shall become president. We were worried about that, weren't we, this time, Ian? I mean, come on. Sometimes you can't tell if he's alive or not. If a president shall not have been chosen before the time fixed for the beginning of his term, or if the president-elect shall have failed to qualify, then the vice president-elect shall act as president until a president shall have qualified. And the Congress may, by law, provide for the case wherein neither a president-elect nor a vice president shall have qualified, declaring who shall then act as president, or the manner in which one who is to act shall be selected. And such person shall act accordingly until a president and vice president shall have qualified. So basically what it's saying is if for some reason or another the president can't take office at the beginning of his term, then the vice president will. If the vice president and the president can't, then the Congress will figure out how to fill that vacancy. And typically it's the Speaker of the House, and then the President pro temp, and there's a line of succession And then Section 5, Section 1 and 2 shall take effect on the 15th day of October following ratification. Section 6, this article shall be inoperative unless it shall be ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date of submission. So it happened. They got it in. Like I said, it fixed a few things. That's what the 20th Amendment did. All right. Let's talk about the 21st Amendment real quick. So that was the repeal of the 18th Amendment. That's all it did. Went in there and said, hey, we screwed up on the 18th Amendment. We listened to these mid-level to high-level socialites who think they know so much more than us. Sound familiar? And put this amendment in, realized it was a damn disaster, and now we're getting rid of it. Makes you not want to listen to those higher middle income to high income socialites who think they're so smart and know so much more than you and I. Just like those posts on the Absent Rick Larson page that I've been dealing with. Okay, that's 21st Amendment. All right, where are we at? 21 minutes. Let's talk about the 22nd Amendment, presidential term limits. So prior to the 22nd Amendment, there were no term limits. It was just kind of an understood thing that you did a couple of terms, 1 or 2 terms, and then you went on about your merry way and let somebody else take over. But what happened was we had a president during the World War II time frame that stayed and stayed and stayed. Pretty popular guy. His accomplishments are, well, we can talk about that some other time. He did a few good things. He helped us win the war. He got us going. He made some great speeches, but there's some other stuff there that he just totally put our country on the path to financial disaster, racial disaster, and division, of which we're feeling in a major manner today. All right, 22nd Amendment. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than once. But this article shall not apply to any person holding the office of president. When this article was proposed by Congress and shall not prevent any, I'm sorry, I screwed that up. When person holding the office of president, when this article was proposed by Congress, and shall not prevent any person who may be holding the office of president or acting as president during the term within which the article becomes operative from holding the office of president or acting as president during the remainder of such terms. So let's pick it apart a little bit. Basically, it says you got 2 terms. Let's have a hypothetical. Let's say that the president was died in the first year of his first term, and the vice president took over. So the vice president did 3 years of that term. That counts as one of his 2 terms. So if he wins another election, he's done. But if it's less than 2 years, let's say the president dies halfway through his 3rd year, and the vice president takes over and only does a year and a half, that doesn't count. Apparently, according to this, we'd have to see how that pans out, what Congress thinks of that. But I think it doesn't count. So he'd get 2 more terms if he could get elected. Section 2. This article shall be inoperative unless ratified. Same thing that we always talk about. 23rd Amendment talks about District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. The district well, it doesn't say Washington, D.C. in there, but it's what it talks about. The district constituting the seat of government of the United States shall appoint in such manner as Congress may direct a number of electors of president and vice president equal to the whole number of senators and representatives in Congress to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than the least populous state. They shall be in addition to those appointed by the states, but they shall be considered for the purposes of the election of president and vice president to be electors appointed by a state, and they shall meet in the district and perform such duties as provided by the 12th article of amendment. Section 2, the Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Basically what it says is that Washington, D.C. Does have representation in Congress, but it doesn't have the same power of a state's representation. 24th Amendment, no poll tax. So remember, I told you that the Democrats were trying to find a way to keep minorities from voting. Yeah, that's what the Democrats were doing. So they're trying to find a way to keep minorities from voting. So what they did was they started having tests, poll taxes. You had to pay to vote, or you had to be able to read or write, or do a certain amount of arithmetic, or read a book and give a dissertation on what you understand it to mean. And so this amendment gets rid of all that. Let me get down to it. There you go, 24th Amendment. So it says, the right of citizens of the United States to vote in any primary or other elections for president or vice president, for electors for president or vice president, or for the Senate or representatives in Congress shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state by reason of failure to pay poll taxes or other taxes. Basically, it just said you can't charge somebody to vote. And that's what the Democrats were trying to do. I can't say that enough. That's what the Democrats were trying to do. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to leave it at that. And we'll cover the 25th and 26th Amendments here in a couple days. We'll spend a little bit of time on the 25th Amendment. And then probably starting next week, we'll just get right back to the regular commentary. We'll talk about the news of the day. We'll talk about the disastrous things that the Biden administration is doing and are going to continue to do. So we'll have plenty to talk about because it's a never-ending White House federal disaster. And you figure between, I call them Hayden Biden and Chameleon Harris, there'll always be some type of disastrous policy to talk about. Add Nasty Nancy in there and Chucky Schumer, and it just gets even more comical. Just more comical. Anyway, I hope you like what we're doing. Like I said, I know it's not necessarily the most exciting thing to sit here and watch and learn about the Constitution. However, it's important that we do it. It's important that we understand it. It's important that we share it with each other and our children. And we'll get through this, and then we'll get on to some more news of the day. All right. Oh, side note, I am speaking at a pro-life event in Olympia, Washington tomorrow around noon. So we'll try and get that video up as well. I'll be speaking with some high-powered speakers down there. I hope I do a good job. I'm going to work on some speech stuff tonight, but it's a pro-life event, and boy, after Basement Biden signed this order just in the last day or so, we'll have a lot to talk about. All right, I want to say thank you for listening. Share, like, get this out to people. Let's grow this thing, and have a great evening. God bless you, and God bless America. Good night.